Hey guys, Dave from Timber Time Outdoors. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is August 5th, 2022, and as you can see behind me, it is food plot time. So in this video, we're going to talk food plots. I'm going to give you some of the best advice you will ever get. I know there's a million videos about food plots, but I'm going to give you the best advice you've ever heard. I'm going to talk about what we did 2 years ago. I'm going to talk about what we did last year and then our plan for this year. So stay with us, guys.
Hey now, take a step outside and seize the day now.
Okay, if you're watching this video, I assume you've heard it all, right? You've heard do this, do that, plant this seed, use this method. It's overwhelming, it's confusing, it's time consuming to try all this stuff. I'm going to try to summarize what we've done in the last 15 years in a couple of minutes. Okay, so your property is not going to be the same as, you know, the so-called experts on YouTube, right? There's some big names out there. Dr. Grant Woods is one of them, Jeff Sturgis, the list goes on. You know, those guys are showing you methods that work for them, but I'm telling you right now, they might not work for you. And I've tried just about everything that is on YouTube, and I would say about half works for us and about half does not. So that's really the advice I'm trying to tell you is you got to experiment. You've got to figure out what works for you. You know, you have a certain budget. Your budget might be different than theirs, right? So equipment and seed types and these kinds of things, you got to find out what works for you. And I have found that the most expensive stuff doesn't necessarily work the best. And again, that's for our property. And if you watch some of my food plot videos, you know we have very sandy soil and we're trying to achieve no-till. It's been a journey for us. We're getting there. We're starting to get some thatch. I'll show you that. But you know, we still have a long way to go to get to what you see on YouTube for no-till. Our soil quality is better in some areas than others. But again, just to circle back, the advice I'm trying to give you is you got to experiment and you got to figure out what works for you. And it might not be the same as what you're hearing on all these channels. Okay, guys? Okay, so just a brief history on our no-till journey. So about 6 years ago, we started out trying no-till. And, you know, we bought the tractor, we got the drill. Now we have a crimper. And we've had to intermix chemicals, which I know, you know, the goal for no-till is to get away from fertilizer, get away from Roundup. I'd say we're halfway there. We still, from time to time, have to use some fertilizers. We've gotten away from most of the fertilizers. We haven't seemed to need it, and I would say the pricing is pretty insane right now, so that's a good thing that we're finally to that point. We did use some liquid fertilizer. That seemed to work pretty well. I think it's called Plot Start. I'll show you some of that here. And then, you know, as far as Roundup, I know some of you guys have commented on my videos before, quit using the Roundup, you're killing all your worms. Yep, it happens. We have sandy soil, we have tremendous weeds still. And what's happening to us, which I'll get into a little bit later about the rye. Rye is the greatest weed suppressant you can have. But if your rye crop isn't super thick, you're going to get the weeds. And that's what we keep having. It keeps happening to us. And I'll explain why that keeps happening to us. We finally think we have figured that out. We actually did it by accident. But on this particular property, it's been very difficult to get really thick rye. We get rye to come back in every spring, but we just don't get enough to suppress the weeds. So we have had to knock these weeds out with Roundup from time to time. And so I wish I could tell you guys I'm 100% not using Roundup, but we are using it a little bit still. So no-till, highly recommend it. It is a little on the expensive side when it comes to the equipment, but to me it's a lot better than tilling up the ground and you know, fighting all the problems that come with tilling. All right, so let's get into what we did 2 years ago. So our food plot plan, you know, basically is two things. We put a cover crop in the spring, and then we come back in August and we do our hunting plots. Okay, so it's been that theme for 15 years. And the cover crop is designed to, you know, feed the deer a little bit, but mainly it's there to build soil. And then you terminate that crop, and then you come in with whatever you think is going to work for you when it comes to, you know, hunting. And so 2 years ago, here's what we did. We planted buckwheat, and it's a super cheap seed. It basically grows on concrete, and it's just there to build soil. It worked really well for us 2 years ago. We terminated that crop with Roundup because we didn't have a crimper at the time. And then, oh, my brother's coming by in the tractor, so hopefully, I'll show you that here. There he is planting, so hopefully you can still hear me. We terminated that crop, and then we came back and we planted something from Eagle Seed called Smorgasbord. I'll reference the video for you here. Shot 2 nice bucks that year. We had great brassicas. We did beans like we have here, so fenced in beans. We had that going. Tremendous year. We thought we cracked the code. We're like, all right, we're going to do this every single year. And what did we do the next year? Well, we saw Dr. Grant Woods. He changed his whole philosophy about no-till, so did we. So here's what I have to say about 2 years ago. Buckwheat, really good. It's a great cover crop. It's cheap. You don't have to spend a lot of time and effort on it. Smorgasbord, in that particular year, I remember we get a lot of rain. That was a great product. I mean, we got great brassicas. We shot 2 nice bucks. It's expensive, that seed is, but it did work very, very well. So let's jump into what we did last year, because it was a complete failure, and so there's a lot of learnings there. But I would say Smorgasbord, good seed. So last year, we switched to basically 100% of what Dr. Grant Woods was doing. Growing Deer TV, by the way, if you don't know, I'm pretty sure you guys will know who he is. He's my favorite guy, actually, on YouTube. I respect what he does. I think he's got a great test methodology. But I have to tell you, what the advice we got last year from him was not very good. And I think it had to do with the seed. I don't know, he got hooked up with this other seed company. We had this blend in the spring. You know, it was supposed to be this great cover crop, super thick. I can't remember what was in there. Hemp and all kinds of weird stuff. It was supposed to just give us a lot of organic matter. Well, it didn't work for us. You know, we have sandy soil. You know, he has terrible soil down there too. It's more rocky than sand, but I don't know. It just didn't work for us. I don't know if we planted it wrong or what happened. I'm just telling you guys that was a bad experience. So our cover crop completely failed, which isn't the end of the world, right? Because you can come back in August and fix it. So we did that, and we used his seed blend for the fall hunt, which was, you know, I'll put the blend here up on the screen, but it's basically, you know, brassica and oats and rye. And by the way, let me just step back a little bit and talk about rye. If you're going to do no-till, rye is the key. You have to have rye growing, not to kill deer or anything like that, but you need that rye to come back thick in the springtime to suppress your weeds. And that happens in August, right? You plant that in August. And if your rye doesn't work, it kind of ruins your entire cycle of no-till because you don't get enough in the springtime. Okay, so keep that in mind. So we tried his seed blend, and again, complete failure. We didn't get good brassica. There was, you know, oats and rye will always kind of shoot up, but it was pretty sparse. We were not happy with it. And, you know, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus or that seed company. I just want to tell you guys that did not work for us. Remember I said at the beginning of this video, you need to figure out what works for your property. That did not work for this property. And so we had to throw a Hail Mary pass, which we've done in the past, where, okay, you've got 2 weeks before the season starts. We can get something planted. Things actually grow here in Wisconsin really well at the beginning of September. You can get some stuff to shoot up pretty fast. So we went and got buck forage oats, a bunch of rye, and we just drilled it in. And I'll show some footage here. Tremendous success with that. Very simple thing. We did it really late. We drilled it in, and I was blessed with a huge buck. I mean, it was kind of the stars aligned on that deal. We, you know, had failure, and then all of a sudden we had a good food plot, and bang, we had deer. So, you know, lessons learned there is, you know, sometimes what the experts are telling you isn't going to be the best for your situation. All right, so that brings us to 2022, and what are we doing this year? So this year, I'm gonna walk you around a little bit, and I'm gonna start off with, see if I can flip you around here. I'm gonna show you the buckwheat, because that's what we did. We went back to buckwheat as our cover crop. And again, it worked really well. Now this year has been one of the driest years I can remember. So you take that, you know, with a grain of salt here when you see some of the buckwheat that I'm going to show you. So my brother has planted in this, so some of it's laying down where the tires are, but you know, you can see the pollinators there. There's a bee. This isn't bad. This is nice buckwheat. Is it like this everywhere? Not always, you know. But you can see here, there's some of our rye down there from before. We're getting some decent thatch now, finally, after years of doing this no-till. But, you know, again, buckwheat is a great cover crop. It's inexpensive. It grows in a drought. I can't say enough about buckwheat. I really am a fan. Weeds right there, guys. So, you know, it's not going to be perfect. If you want perfect food plots, it's pretty hard to achieve. So lower your expectations there a little bit. But so that was our cover crop. And we also did soybeans. Well, we have so many damn deer here. It's a good problem to have, right, guys? But so many deer, we have to fence it. So we got the double fence situation. We're fortunate we have power close by, and we can electrify this. If you look right over there, you can see some of those are browsed a little bit. So the fence wasn't down. We're not exactly sure how these deer are getting in, but sometimes, you know, they're getting in here and they're browsing a little bit, or something is anyway. But if you look at that field, you know, that's enough soybeans to make this system work. And so what we do, we fence it. You can see my brother's gone back in there and he's planted the brassicas over top of the beans. And so in about a month, we'll have brassicas and soybeans, and we'll leave this fence up. This is 100% a gun season thing. I know it sounds dumb, right? But we open this up for gun season, and they come in here, and you know, we'll get 20, 30 deer in here. It's really fun. But we don't bow hunt over this field at all. So that's what we do, and it's been we didn't do it last year actually because we just didn't have time to set up the fence. It's a lot of work, but that is our bean field. So that's method number one here for hunting. I'm gonna flip you around and we're gonna talk about what we're doing for seeds in August. So you're probably thinking to yourself, well, you had great success with Smorgasbord. Why didn't you go back to Smorgasbord? Because we didn't do that this year. And again, we were listening to what the experts were saying. And a lot of them now are saying you cannot mix oats and rye with brassicas. And they're saying that because there's this fight over nitrogen. I kind of question that advice actually, because if you look at the Smorgasbord blend, that's exactly what it is. It's brassica, it's oats and rye, basically. And it doesn't compete with itself. It does great. But my brother loves to listen to these experts, and so he is convinced that we have to separate the oats and rye from the brassica. And so that's what we're trying this year. And he just got done basically planting brassica everywhere. I didn't really agree with that game plan, but we're going to try that. I was thinking we should separate it and do, like, you know, half the field in brassica, half the field in oats and rye. So we had more of a test plot situation, but he's rolling the dice here, and he did everything in brassica. So we're going to terminate the buckwheat. He's already got the brassica in a month. Then we're going to come back, and then we're going to do the oats and rye. And what we're going to do there is the learnings from last year, which was that kind of the Hail Mary pass where we planted the oats and rye really late. That seems to be the ticket to plant oats and rye very late. However, what we're not sure we're going to do is, are we going to drill it or are we going to broadcast it? So everyone's telling us if we drill it, we're going to kill all the brassica. That does make sense because it's leafy and it's just going to tear it up. So broadcasting is probably what we'll do. to be honest, guys, I'm very skeptical that's going to work for us. It works for some people, but we have sand, and it seems like when we've done broadcasting in any fashion on this property, for whatever reason, the seeds do not germinate very well. So our contingency plan is, if that doesn't work, we'll come back. You know, if we don't get good germination, we'll come back and drill more. So it's just, I don't know. We're going to learn, and hopefully I'll have an update for you in about 6 weeks to see if this plan worked out. So wrap this video up. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully it wasn't boring just listening to me. But guys, you know, we have years of experience. I know I don't claim to be a food plot expert, but I've made a ton of mistakes, and hopefully that you know, you take this advice and apply some of it to your property, figure out what works for you guys. So thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time, and remember, everybody, keep it in the timber. Bye-bye.